Welcome to the Working Your Mojo show. So that you know what it's about, the Working Your Mojo show is about career inspiration. It is designed to show you a different way to live a life. It includes things like hybrid careers or people that have a slashy as part of their name, but it gives you different career paths and different options so that you can choose your own adventure. The second thing that it does is it creates an awesome playlist of songs that are motivating and inspirational, so that when you're feeling like things aren't quite going where they need to go, this will just gear you up, get you excited about life. Hi, welcome to another episode of Working Your Mojo Career Inspiration. Today I'm talking to two incredible women. I thought it would be nice to actually talk to these two people together, partly because of the history that we've got with the Change Management Institute, but also because I think that they riff off each other really, really well. Why I wanted to interview these particular people is I've been really lucky to be surrounded by some incredibly women and men, but incredible women that see something in me that I might not see, or that gets revealed just by the process of working through them. And these two women are exactly that. So they saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. They invited me to be part of the Change Management Institute. In their words, you'll see that it's kind of like they think that I was there the whole time, but I feel like it was a real privilege to be kind of a part of it. Our working relationship has evolved to the point now where it is a deep friendship, and I'm really very grateful of the opportunity to be friends with them and for the encouragement that they provide. I thought it'd be really good to cover them together, and I've talked about this a little bit, but they do riff off each other quite well. They have extremely complementary skills, which if you listen to the Change Management Institute, one of the Working Your Mojo, you'll actually find that kind of comes across really, really well. So I hope you enjoy listening to Caroline and Helen. They are certainly an inspiration of mine, and I'm so blessed to call them my friends. So now we're going to move on to a little bit more about you. So we've done the introduction. We know what you both are doing now, but I want you to sort of tell me about how you arrived here. So I imagine it's not a very linear pathway, but just a little bit of a kind of whistle-stop tour of kind of, how you arrived at today.
I'll kick off this time. And I think you'll see when I talk about my journey, where Helen's journey sort of almost intercepted my journey along the way until we finally did meet. It's quite interesting. I went to uni in London and then started work at the time when there was 3 million employed in the UK, early 80s, when there were no jobs. You went to uni and there were no jobs. In fact, I made a conscious choice when I was at uni not to do computing because I didn't think there was going to be a future on it.
Right.
That was how long it was.
You would hate it, it anyway. 1979,
nobody thought there was a future in computing. So I did accounting, actually, which turned into my advantage going forward. But so when I left uni, I wasn't qualified to do anything. There were no jobs, and I was literally just applying for anything. Didn't want me as an office equipment buyer, didn't want me as a teller, but in a building society. But eventually, I got a trainee opportunity at an oil company for a programmer role. I didn't know what a programmer role was. They told me to go to the library and get programming for dummies because I had no idea. Thankfully, they took a punt on me, and I absolutely loved it. So I was a computer programmer from the very early days when we were typing into punch cards and doing all that stuff. But it gave me a really good sense of how patterns, my brain, how the brain works, how do you get things going, how to sort of decompose and put them back together again. That was then went over to Bermuda. I was walking one day, middle of summer, August, tipping down with rain, freezing cold, and then I saw this advert in a newspaper with a beautiful beach saying, would you rather work here? I went, yes. So I went over to Bermuda and worked there for a bit for the Bank of Bermuda, which was fantastic fun as an expat. We were called expat white trash because we, which gave you, again, a different sense of things.
Yeah.
There was no privilege around being an expat white trash. You were just there to do the bidding of the people in Bermuda, but it was great fun. Then I came back to London to work for the Bank of Bermuda. At the same time as I was in London, IRA were bombing everything, and they bombed the NatWest Tower, which was right next door, and caused all sorts of havoc, including knocking down my favourite Next shop that was there, and didn't know what to do, couldn't go shopping. But it builds resilience. So working through those sorts of things, really, moving country, dealing with these things, really built resilience and the ability to just thrive in those sort of areas. And then I went back to Bermuda to work again, and then felt that Bermuda 20 miles by 2 was probably a little bit too small for me now, looking for somewhere else. So I thought either South Africa, New Zealand or Australia, and I went to Australia to have a look-see and thought, okay, this is for me, and managed to come really quickly. When I was in Australia, I met a very good friend of mine, Susie, who I'm now really good friends with. She found me a role at Pricewaterhouse Berwick, then became Coopers. So I was working there for a little while. Then I joined Westpac, where I met Helen. We just happened to be in offices across the road. And when I was at Westpac, I actually had an EA, which was the last time I've ever had an EA, but it was brilliant. And then from then, when I was at Westpac, did the AGSM course around change. But then I was sort of doing project management. My last permanent job before I left was head of IT, architecture, planning and design. So I was really in the IT and project management space. But knew there was something missing, did an AGSM course around change management, thought, hey, there's money to be made here, because nobody was doing change management. This is early 2000. And then left and started up my own business in the change management space, Carbon Group, which is I've been running until recently, where my last job, I knew I had one permanent job left in me, and went to Woolies. It was back to Woolies, but went to Woolies to work permanently at Woolies, which I loved, underneath Brad Banducci. So we had a fantastic time there, but he just recently retired. So that's been my sort of pathway to my full-on retirement now. After 40 odd years, it's time for me to now just be and to do something else.
Awesome.
To adventures.
Thank you. I didn't know. I knew about the knitting in Norway bars, but I did not know about the bombing. That would have been quite terrifying. Cool. Helen.
Which transitions nicely. So I always wanted to be a hairdresser. All the way through school.
You have fabulous hair, so that makes sense.
Who'd have guessed? And up until I was about 16, that's all I wanted to do. Couldn't get a grant to go to the place I wanted to go to, thought I'd stay on and do what we have as A-levels in the UK, so sort of year 11, 12. Did French because I loved it, and stats and computing because I could do them. They weren't very enjoyable, but you're going to pass, and that's all I needed to do. I was a sort of average grade person. I collected qualifications, but just enough to get by. And so when I left, I looked for jobs, couldn't find anything I liked. Same economic era, wasn't much around. So with a week to go before uni term started, no one in my family had ever been to uni, so I didn't really know what it was. I went to my Saturday job and said, I've got an offer, I can go to the City of London Polytechnic or I can do a retail management job. And 3 people said, go to City of London Polytechnic, and 2 said, do the retail management traineeship. So I went to City of London Poly. I don't know either way, so I might as well go with the vote. So went to City of London Poly. The main advantage of that was I could leave home and go to London and live in London, which I adore, was my hometown. Went to uni, came out, met a guy in a park who offered me a job. He was an American lawyer. I was sunbathing, and it sounds really sleazy. It wasn't sleazy, honestly, I promise. American lawyer, he was looking for someone to do D-Base 3 programming. I didn't know what D-Base 3 programming was. So he said, can you do it? I said, yeah, of course I can. No idea. Rushed off to the library. This is where I was intersect. Got the how to do D-Base 3. turned up for work on Monday, worked with him for a year, had a ball. He was an independent American lawyer, really interesting work. Did that for a year, and then my parents sent me a job ad for the civil service training scheme.
Yeah.
They were civil servants, and the note on the top from my dad said, "Isn't it about time you got a proper job?" I don't know, I was having fun, I knew there was no need.
Yeah.
So I applied, got in, and later found out that, saw the interview notes from the guy that interviewed me, and he didn't say, smart or anything, he just said friendly. So my interview notes were friendly, but I got the job.
Yeah.
So I did graduate trainee, you rummage around a bit in different departments, loved telecommunications, got into that because again it was travelling, it was, we were taking out, nobody will understand the technology, but we were taking out old-fashioned exchanges that used to fill big buildings called Strouges, and we were putting in little cabinets of circuitry, so went all around the country doing that, that was great.
Wow.
And then turning point was my boss said to me, if you're lucky you'll get a promotion by the time you're 30. I was 25.
Oh.
No intention of waiting that long.
No.
So I went to work for a bank, did the same thing, telecommunications all over the place, got into construction, loved it. So worked on as a project manager on construction sites for about 8 years. In the middle of that, 1993, IRA blew up the NatWest Tower. I was refurbishing the NatWest Tower at the time.
Wow.
We'd done 2/3 of the building, and the IRA blew it up. That basically meant from that moment on, 9 months, 6-day week, 18-hour days, the most amazing team of people to make good the damage, to recover, to find somewhere within 2 days for 3,500 people to work. Just one of those amazing times. And in later years, I remember talking to my mum, who worked during World War II, and she'd been on the plane spotting boards. You see those things where they move the planes around the board, and there's those women around the back, around the top with their radio sets. Well, she did that, and she did it on D-Day. And I said to her, look, I feel really bad because it's a bad event. They've blown the thing up. It was actually a turning point in my career. For all the good and bad in it. Again, worked hard, a bit like the CMO days, we worked hard, long hours, long days, amazing team, just doing what needed to be done. We smashed through so many things like service levels. It used to take 3 months to get something. Well, it turns out that actually you can get it in 2 days.
Right.
When push comes to shove and you haven't got any paperwork to fill in, so we busted a lot of processes during that time and spent 9 months really just putting everything straight. Again, was given the job by my boss, and I was 30, and the bomb went off on Saturday morning. He rang me on Saturday afternoon and said, get a good night's sleep because tomorrow it's yours. And from Sunday morning for 9 months, that was all I did. I ate, slept and breathed the recovery. Right. But looking back now, I think how brave he was to hand the whole thing over to me at the age of 30 to lead a multidisciplinary team of builders, the clients that were in the departments that were in the building, and all the tech and everything else. So it was a huge, looking back, it was a huge honour at the time. I just thought it was dead exciting.
Yeah.
So through that got me on the radar a little bit, I think. And again, everyone else was getting married, having babies. I was at that stage where it's not what I want to do. I think I want to move house, or do I want to? And I got a call saying, do you want a job in Australia? Yeah. And at the time, a good friend of mine was moving out to Australia. I'd gone to South Africa and done 2 or 3 trips to South Africa to look for work, but the political situation wasn't great. A lot of the opportunities were in Joburg, so I was sort of thinking, well, I'll go to Joburg and have one more go, and then I'll go down and have a look at Australia. Why wouldn't you want to come and live here?
Yeah.
And so came here with a consulting company, spent a year with them, and then decided that really I wanted to be doing my own thing. So that was 1998. And been doing my own thing ever since. Again, bit of project management, got into change, and then the last 10 years, I think that lovely decade of your career, once you get to your 50s where you've got so much in your toolkit and you're so, you've got your own stuff cooked, so you're really able to focus on everybody else, your team, your client, the need, the problem, whatever it is. And you also know yourself well enough to know what work you thrive in and what work you don't. So it was really clear to me, as if it wasn't probably 20 years before, I'm really good at project stuff. Come in, do stuff, get out, like you. Come in, do something, get out. It wasn't till I was probably in my late 50s that I articulated my purpose as being useful. And that's what had been driving the fact that I can't do what Caroline does. I cannot run a team. I cannot be a permanent fixture. I have to be light on my feet with no job description, no job title, but with a job to do.
Yeah.
And come in and do that. But it's only when you reflect later in your career that some of these pennies drop for you. It's like, actually, what is it that I have to be? Where do I thrive? When I'm being useful.
Yeah.
So where do I not thrive? When I'm expected to sort of do either the maintenance or do things as part of a bigger, slower machine. I'm just not good at that stuff.
Yeah.
And once you know that, you can then target. So the last 10 years to be able to target, clients that I want to work with, work I want to do, and walk away from stuff that lasts too long or is not, I don't feel useful. I can walk away from that stuff really quickly now. Whereas I used to hang around and think, perhaps it's me why I can't deliver here.
Yeah. It's interesting to me because one of the things that I say about people when I'm being flippant is if I hang around too long, I start being destructive and I start unraveling all of the good work that I've done because I'm like, can we just tweak this and change this and change this? So I know that there comes a point where I'm like, I've got to bug out of here because I'm just gonna end up making things a little bit destructive unless I get really cool things and they change all the time, which is 3.5 years at Woolworths with you. Really cool things I get to do and they changed all the time. So it was actually really good fun to be able to do that sort of stuff. So
yeah, and you know that the nature of the work is going to change.
Yeah.
And Caroline knows you well enough to put you on a mission, pull you out, put you on another mission, pull you out.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I did 5 years at Woolworths, which I've never done. I'm a 9-month girl.
Yeah.
So again, I know where my limitations are, but did 5 years at Woolworths because I did 28 different jobs while I was there.
Yeah.
And kept that. And again, I was there to be useful and also had the ability somewhat to craft the roles that I did do and the work that I did do to make sure that put me on the useful stuff, don't put me on the other stuff.
And it's interesting because the sort of launching point for me now is just to go in and be sort of like, okay, here's your help. Okay, you're right, off you go. I'll check in and see how you're going in a couple of weeks' time. But sort of that process is really exciting. So I'm really excited about doing that for people, and hopefully a piece of work will come off that's exactly that. Here is our problem. Can you solve it? Sure. Here's the way we go about doing it. You okay with that? Yeah, cool. Awesome. Then let me go do. All right. So we talked a bit about the uniqueness, so I don't think we need to talk about that. If you gave 3 pieces of career advice, what would they be?
I don't know if you're going to ask this, but one of my favourite quotes ever is one of those inspirational quotes. It's probably a poster sitting next to that girl with the tennis gear with the ball and everything else on. But it was this cliff, and it basically said, if you don't go to the edge of the cliff and jump, you can't fly.
Yeah.
And to me, that is the thing, right? If too many people sit back and talk about what they're going to do, but they don't make that one step, that courageous step to just jump and do it, and it isn't a cliff. You don't have to have wings, and you won't crash to the bottom. But having that courage to do that, I think, is really important for people in their career, because you can see from what Helen and I talked about, we have taken pretty much every opportunity that came our way.
Yeah.
We jumped.
Yeah.
And I know it's not for everybody. Everybody's got different family circumstances and stuff like that. But if you can do that, it pays back in spades. Yeah. It'll be a piece of advice that I've got for people.
Yeah, cool. Did you have 2 others, or is that the main one?
Be very curious. I mean, because to be able to find those cliffs, you've got to be curious too.
Yeah.
Right? You've got to be constantly. And sorry if I'm going to steal some of your stuff, but you've got constantly got to be looking out there and not be comfortable with just staying put. You've got to keep pulling things out and to taking those adventures. So I think all of those things together are the things that, for me, just think about where things are going to go next. Get more input. Think about things. We wouldn't have done the CMI had we not been playing things forward. And going, well, what's the opportunity here? What could you do? What's different? So I think that's sort of my ethos of how I work and how I've managed my career, pretty much.
Yeah. And you do find the tools, techniques, people that help. Like, you just take the leap and you work out what it looks like or how it works. You end up finding it. And the information that's available nowadays means you almost don't even need to find it. Like, it's somebody will have done something like it before that you can kind of do. So, and that to me is a little bit disappointing because I feel like there's no brand new things that you can do. Brand new things for you, maybe, but no brand new in the whole
there's lots of brand new. There's lots of brand new.
Yeah, okay.
Everybody's always thought about the fact that what they've got now is push the boundaries and therefore, and it's always gone forward, right?
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, it's a good point. There was one, the design of the checkouts that can go up and down when at Woolworths, when the guys were telling that story, it was really interesting because they thought that no one had done it because it was hard to do. And then as they were kind of moving down that project pathway, they were like, no, we can do that. We can do that. Like all of the things that seemed hard were just, not really hard. And then they kind of created the standard for other people to be able to do that so that people with wheelchairs and stuff can use it. So, yeah, you're right.
Stop there.
All right, we were talking career advice. And I think you were next.
Oh, gosh.
Any career advice?
I think echoing what Caroline says, if you're not feeling uncomfortable, you're not doing it right. And that goes to courage. And I think what we don't see a lot is courage and confidence. I think the other thing is don't be afraid to move if you're not in the right place. There is a bit of an expectation that, you have to sort of be shaped a certain way to fit the groove that a particular role or a particular organisation has cut out for you, and nobody fits that role.
Yeah.
So, some people can get in and change the role a bit, some people get in and change the person a bit, but if you're not in the right groove, get out of it and find another groove. And I think we see so often there's almost like a mental expectation that you have to start at 9 and finish at 5 and do this role and get promoted and go to meetings and all of that. When you look at the world, that way of behaving is actually a bit weird and a bit odd. And it will suit some people, and it won't suit an awful lot of other people. But I think because that's the way we get paid, and therefore the way we pay the mortgage and we find our career success, I think when you realise how narrow that band is, it's not surprising that many of us don't fit and don't thrive in that environment. There will always be the work that you're doing. There will always be, once you start to identify the bits that are really you, that don't fit in the role that you're in, you can start to explore possibilities, which then comes to that idea of courage.
Yeah.
So I think people who stay in that uncomfortable role and they change the person to fit the role and the environment, the environment might be a bit grotty, the role might be a bit boring or a bit challenging or high workload or whatever it is, instead of changing the role, they change themselves. And then I see many people in their roles who are unhappy or deeply unhappy, and then start the narrative of, well, it's what I have to do because it's what going to work's all about. And it's not.
Yeah.
You're going to spend the next decade doing that. As we all know, those decades go really quickly.
Yeah.
So if you've adapted yourself for a groove that you found yourself in, know whether you're thriving, and if you're not, go and find another groove.
Yeah, it's really key. Anything else to share? That one reminds me of a couple of things in particular. So I think you learn as you go along what kind of helpful and not helpful. And I remember both of you giving me the advice when I was at News, this isn't a good place for you. And I was like sticking it out because I was doggedly trying to show them a different way. And then when I left, I'm like, oh wow, I didn't like who I was there. I wasn't a very nice person at all. So, and that was but then the next moment when another gig comes along, you're like, hang on, I see what's happening here. Like you see a little earlier, you catch yourself a little earlier and go, this isn't for me. And then you can kind of make that choice. But yeah, it reminded me of that for sure. For sure. Okay, the next question is if you have any personal philosophies or manifesto. I just love the word manifesto. That's why I had it here for almost everything. Because I just think it's a fun word. A hilarious antidote or personal highlight throughout your careers, which I imagine is, there's probably many, like a big stream of paper, but, any of those you want to share?
Something I was reminded about recently, actually, as I was talking to somebody else about it, was I was very, very lucky to go on a Stephen Covey course written by that Stephen Covey presented. Yeah.
Wow.
It was early 90s. He'd just done his book. He was testing it out. I was in Bermuda. He came across Bermuda for a holiday, and was just doing it. And it was the first corporate course I'd ever been on, to be honest, other than the Zero Defect Man that was wacky. that really resonated with me. And you can imagine, like 7 Habits, it was just eye-opening for us all, but particularly, I really took something out of it. But the thing that, it was the first time I'd heard this concept of what do you want written on your gravestone?
Yeah.
And for me, after a bit of thinking about it, I just wanted it to have made a difference.
Yeah.
And that sort of stuck with me. I don't want to be a CEO. I don't want to be da-da-da-da. I just want to make a difference.
Yeah.
And that sort of, that ethos has sort of stuck with me. But that whole, being part of that Stephen Covey, I think that was a good grounding for me. It was pretty much halfway through my career, actually, but it was nascent. It was still, I was still very much learning and absorbing things. Everybody was, But to have that course sort of really set me on a path to sharpening the sword, doing all those things. If everybody's not done Stephen Covey recently, just go back and have a look at it, because it's superb thinking if you think about, what he was doing in the early 90s. So.
Yeah. And in particular, it was kind of the beginning of those self-improvement books that kind of came out, and I still refer to it now. Didn't have the luxury of having Stephen Covey deliver it, but I still refer to it now.
Yeah, brilliant.
Because there's so many things in there that are just easy to remember, but really quite poignant. Yeah.
How many of the courses that you might go on now are literally just hashing what he had already done.
Yeah,
so.
definitely. Awesome.
Uh-huh.
How exciting. Personal highlight for you, or a manifesto? So you're going to be useful on your gravestone?
Yeah, I think that it's sort of time of life makes certain things more important.
Yeah.
I think, states of society and states of workplaces and things like that sort of bring many of my turns of phrase to the surface at different times. And I think one of the ones more recently has definitely been this too shall pass. I know it's generally used in a negative sense, but as you guys know, I just don't do negative.
Yeah.
I just don't go there. But I think there's also something in the positive. There's that sense that you only find joy in the present. This too shall pass. So even for the good stuff, like all the stuff that you love, all the stuff that you're happy about, all the people you love, all the things that are good in the world, like this is going to pass.
Yeah.
So actually applying it, because I apply everything to the positive, this too shall pass just brings me back to the present. What do I do today? Who did I talk to today? Who did I reach out to today? Did I have the day that I want to have? Did I, will my mum be proud? Still, there's still a narrative in there of, if what I did was on the front page of the paper, would I be proud of what I've done? Do I feel I'm living my best life? So applying that usually negative, this too shall pass, to the positive just helps keep me absolutely focused.
Yeah, nice. Brilliant. Thank you. So the 2 trickiest questions of the whole entire process are coming up now. So I'm going to do them in a slightly different order than they're actually written down. So the first one is if there's a book, quote, inspiring or inspirational, and maybe it's the ones you've already given, so that's okay. You can have a pass if that's the case, and then it'll be the song. So we'll do the book, quote, movie, fun, inspiring / motivational.
I think I've pretty much talked about my quote and my inspiration moment, but I will tell you my favourite film, which is probably one that I probably shouldn't say is my favourite film anymore, but it's The Party with Peter Sellers. Every time I watch that film, I laugh, and I love a belly laugh. Yeah. It makes everything feel good. So, I love all sorts of films, Marvel, etc., but if there's one film that I know I can pick up and laugh at, that's it. Yeah. So, and cool. Just in the moment, I'm happy again.
If you haven't watched The Blue Beetle, I'd recommend that one. It's one of the DC Comics, I think, series. We watched it last night. It was awesome. Really fun. Yay, okay. I've never watched The Party by Peter Sellers. I'll make a note.
Do it.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Right. And what about for you, Helen?
I think book, and again, there's a sort of a recency thing here. All the work that Ryan Holiday does, and the Daily Stoic, the number of people I know that keep the Daily Stoic in their handbag. And if you haven't seen it, it's a quote a day from one of the ancient philosophers. A lot of it's Seneca or Aurelius, but I think at a time when we're being bombarded with so much rubbish and opinions and things that try and make you feel scared or bad or whatever, and I'm somewhat impervious to that stuff. But going back to some of these quotes and the rationale behind them, and to understand why this piece of advice was something that somebody had cogitated on. So one of them in particular, you know, at the end of every day he would write down what he learnt that day, and why he learnt it and what he'll do. And just to spend, you know, there was no telly in those days, so the thinking, I love the thinking that goes into that, to crystallise on something, to make a commitment to himself, because a lot of these were written just for them to initially, to this is how I will carry myself into the world tomorrow. And so even if you're just sitting on the train and you flick to a particular day, a particular quote, they're always just amazing.
Yeah.
And to think how long ago this was all happening and how much the human condition hasn't changed.
No,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah. Awesome. I haven't read that one, so I'll add that to my list as well. All right. The most challenging question of all. You ready? The 3 songs that you find inspiring or motivating, and I will make a note of writing these down because they will get added to the playlist. Who's going to go first?
I will. So inspiring in different ways. I mean, they are the songs that really just part of my playlist, you know, for my life. And one of them is Coldplay Yellow.
Yep.
It's the tune on my phone. But the reason is because, apart from the fact that Christina, as we all know, liked Yellow.
Love Yellow.
It was a time when I went over to Boston. My sister was there. She just had her second baby, and we were standing around, and this song came on the radio, and we were just dancing around with the babies. And it was a time of just pure joy, and it always takes me back to that moment of just joy with these kids who are now, you know, in the early 30, you know, nearly 30. But so that that's one of them. Another one is another family song, which is Ben Lee, We're All in This Together.
Yep.
And again, that was due to a time when my family my dad had a heart attack. We didn't know if he was going to, you know, get through it. And the whole family came together, and that was just happened to be playing on the radio, and it was just became our song, you know, for that moment. And the third one, can't really remember what my third one. Can I look at my phone?
Yes, you can.
What my third one is going to be? Okay, my third one.
I know that you've done homework, so I love that.
I did a bit of homework on. Oh yes. It's the Inspector Morse theme.
Ah.
I love detective programs, and this was with John Thor, you know, in the
the original
early 80s, right? But and I think the composer is Australian too. But ultimately, that is my. I loved it. I loved the music and everything else. But it was almost, and when it plays, I'm just zen-like. And I think it's my attempt to like classical music.
Yeah.
Because I'm not big on classical music. But ultimately, it sort of takes me back, and it makes me feel a little bit sort of, you know, scholarly.
Yeah.
In that regard. So that's my third one.
Awesome. Thank you. What about you, Helen?
This question terrified me.
Yeah.
So I'm famous for never watching television, never watching movies, and having no view on any popular culture.
Right.
So when I saw this, I'm thinking, oh heck. But actually music has been a big part of my life. And thank you for asking the question, because when I actually sat down to do it, and I came up with my 3, it was really cool. It was really cool to go back and actually what I've done is I've found my 3, and then I found what they symbolised.
Oh.
And then I could sort of play back to, well, that's why they're important to me.
Oh, wow.
So my number 1 is Happy, Pharrell Williams.
Yes.
Nice. You cannot be grumpy, you cannot sit still, you cannot sit down, you have to dance, you have to smile, you have to sing.
Absolutely.
And it's just really cool. And the video that goes with it is just so cool, because it's just people at work and in the street and everything just like, you know, really hit. So that one is absolutely my number 1. You know, if I could only play one song ever for the rest of my life, it would be that one. Number 2 is more of a sort of storytelling one. So that is Stone Pony's Different Drum.
Right. I love the fact I don't know that.
So that's certainly several decades before. But the principle behind that, one of the lines is something along the lines of, I'm not ready for anyone to tie me down. So the song is actually about a woman whose partner wants to get married, and she's like, ick. I was 46 before I got married. There was a bit of, I don't want that. But the spirit of it is, I'm not ready to be tied down. I'm not ready to have anyone put the reins in on me.
Yeah.
And so from the age of 5, probably, maybe even earlier, that was my theme tune.
Right.
So when I found this song, that's exactly how I felt. You know, all the way through, it's like, don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me where to work. Don't tell me what country to live in. Don't tell me what... Because I have to do the opposite. So I do have... I'm sure they'd call it oppositional defiance disorder. I'm probably got a label for it. But basically, you know, I always wanted freedom. I always wanted my thing. And that's what that song says. It says, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to be reined in. And that was me until...
Already ever?
Yeah, all the way through my life. And then honestly, I sort of run out of steam and met my husband. And got married at 46. So that was number 2. So Stone Ponies, different drum. Number 3 is a cold chisel.
Oh.
But it's flame trees.
Oh, yes. Okay.
And if happy is all about like the thing that I want to be the whole time, I'm hardwired happy, hardwired positive, sometimes annoyingly, not much you guys luckily, but you know that's the state that I want to be in. A different drum is, there is something in my, what some will call spirit character, that epitomises that. The third one was around love. So if the first one's about happy, you know, state of being, the second one was about how I live my life and my spirit and my fight, in a fight in a good sense. The third one was about love. So Coldplay Flame Trees was playing at my husband's best friend's funeral.
Right.
So it's symbolic of the funeral, but actually it's symbolic of Queensland, which is linked to my husband. It's about going back to your hometown, which I never do. I don't do putting down roots, but the idea of going back to your hometown, catching up with your mates in the pub, and so the sort of husband, best mates that may not be with us anymore, and then the importance of those long-term friendships. So like the decades-long friendship that we have, they become the symbol, and as we now move around the world, coming back together with people you've known for decades and have strong, firm the foundation friendships with. That Flame Trees is all about, you know, coming home, being with your mates. Doesn't matter what goes on in the rest of the world. Everyone knows you for who you are. They knew you before you were famous, sick, successful, unsuccessful, whatever it is you are, and accept you as you are. So there's that real feeling of sort of love and acceptance.
Yeah, nice. Beautiful. I love the fact that you had such good reasonings for both of the lists, and well done for getting to 3. That's quite amazing. As a suggestion, Sarah Blasco's version of Flame Trees is haunting, and it'd be absolutely worth you listening to. It is quite magical. So there you go. I'm super excited. That is really awesome. I can't wait to add those into the list and find out who the hell Stone Ponies are, because I've never heard of them before. Must be a UK band. All right. So one of the very, very last questions I like to ask, is there anything you wish I'd asked you?
Maybe something about the future.
Ooh,
I think we've talked a lot about the past.
We have.
Ancient past in CMI sense.
Yeah.
I think because Caroline and I are both at that stage where we've sort of done the 40 years of work and we're entering Act 3 of our lives, it's looking very different already. We're both, I think, very excited. We're not one of these people that was afraid of stopping work, but sort of couldn't wait, and we can't wait for the next horizon.
Yeah.
So
it's a great question.
Knowing that we've got, all being well, 30, 40 years ahead, how exciting is that to be able to embark on another 30 years where you've got, your health, your happiness, and your confidence and your courage, and a blank landscape. So exciting.
And I would say that our way of being is helping that process too. So I know that my best way of dealing with things is to sit for a bit, just look at things, figure out what's next, what's going on, who's doing what, da. So I am quite happy not to do anything for 3, and I might actually say 6 months now, because I'm really enjoying doing nothing. But I'm doing things in that I'm doing courses, I'm doing bits and pieces, and just to sort of start getting to, what am I missing? What's going on out there? What am I missing? What are opportunities? It's just very, very exciting. To have that space to be able to do that again. It feels like I've gone back to my beginning of my career almost. In that what's next. It's fabulous.
Yeah. And I think when you were talking, one of the things that struck in my mind was even if we think back about the past, there was a real forethought of going, this needs to happen and we're going to make this happen for the CMI. But I think there's that thread regardless. So it wouldn't have mattered whether it was that or something else, or where, you know, when you're retired, it doesn't matter. It's kind of that constant scanning of just, and being that hyper curious around what's out there and what could I possibly dabble in that might be interesting, even if it's creating a beautiful garden with your oldies that you absolutely love, and the stuff that you do at Streetworks as well. But it's like, what is it, and all those possibilities are kind of just hanging there, ready for you to choose which one you're going to pursue. That does sound exciting.
Yeah. And it is about refining who you are. You know, I've got a few friends going through this sort of transition out of work into retirement, and they have to refine who they were when they were 18.
Right.
Because they've moulded to be a friend or an employee or a wife or a mother or whatever it is, and they've got to knock all those edges off and find out who
Who've
they
never
were.
moulded.
Who they were. Whereas, they
They fit it in that very narrow sort of, they customise themselves to
so
that.
who were you when you were 18? Because that was you. That was who you were when your spirit was free and you didn't have a mortgage.
Yeah.
And you didn't compromise to, you didn't make trade-offs in your life, which we all have to make. But getting back to who you were at 18 is proving to be difficult for some people.
Yeah.
And I do think we haven't, with the way we've led our life, we probably haven't moved too far away from our sort of core spirit, and we've been lucky in being able to do that. We've lived in places where that's been a possible thing for us to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So is there any future secrets you want to share about what might be or might not be? And completely okay if you don't.
No.
I think the exciting thing is we have no idea. But you so much time and freedom to try everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have turned into my mother, so I'm pretty sure that half my life will be in the garden and the other half will be volunteering for worthy causes.
And some of that time's in my garden.
And some of it is looking after Caroline's garden. So if you want your garden looked after, I do love looking after other people's gardens. But I don't know. It's so exciting.
Yeah.
So many things to try, so many places to explore.
I love the energy. I love that, because you kind of think of retirement as like a dead stop, and there's so many people that not so many people, but there's people that I know that have like stopped and then found it really, really hard because they can't play golf for the rest of their lives or every single day. So they found it kind of hard. And I love the fact that both of you have got that real exploration kind of component associated with it, that has been like that thread throughout your lives, travelling all sorts of different places, doing all sorts of different things.
It's very hard, I think, if you've worked in one place for decades and then you stop.
Yeah.
Whereas we've started, stopped, moved, done a bit of this, bit of that, moved 3 jobs at once. Yeah, so I think I don't underestimate how hard it is for someone who's lived in one place, worked in one organisation, and then one day everything stops. That must be terrifying.
Yeah.
But we use refocus, not retire. Retire is a very dead-end word.
Yeah.
And it's not, it's refocus. Refocused away from a 9 to 5. Switch off the alarm clock, which is the biggest joy ever for anyone who hasn't yet got to that point in life. As somebody who really hates early mornings, turn that alarm clock off was just almost the best day of my life.
Yeah. I love early mornings. All right, so thank you so much. I knew it was going to be informative and can't even think of the words, but I knew it was going to be magical. And it has been, absolutely. So thank you for sharing the journey of CMI. Thank you for sharing a little bit more about yourselves personally. I can't believe I've known you for 25 plus years, and yet I still learnt something new about both of you today. Thank you for the songs. They are absolutely awesome, and thank you for the time today.
Thank you for asking us. It's been a pleasure.
Opportunity. It's been so much fun.
It has been fun, hasn't it? Considering I was super nervous to begin with. I don't know why. I was like, oh gosh, I have to have a nervous one. I think you'll agree that listening to Helen and Caroline showcase their story was definitely an inspiration. There is things in that that I wasn't even aware of, and I have known them for 20 plus years. The fact that their lives kind of weave and almost catch each other all the way through, and then now it has is kind of like an interesting thing about the cosmos and kind of how things work. So that's something for another time, possibly even another podcast. I also thought that the songs that they chose were powerful. I think all of the songs that people choose for inspiration and motivation are really, really thoughtful and really quite provocative in kind of the way that they do it. But I must admit, I was quite surprised that some of them were very modern. I thought I'd get some sort of back in the 70s and possibly early 80s from them, but I was really pleased always with the suggestions that they gave. The other lesson I think that we got from this, a really powerful lesson, is to kind of do it before you're ready. So it really helps you build resilience, and that resilience then is proof that you can go through a difficult time and proof that you can come out the other side better and stronger than you were before. They have not had easy lives. They talked about some of the things throughout it. Nobody has an easy life. There's always challenges that get presented to you. But that resilience is that proof. It's like proof that you can get through something that's difficult, and you can also do something when you're not quite ready. And I feel like being around these women gave me that opportunity to do something when I wasn't quite ready, that then would give me the proof points that I could keep doing that sort of amazing stuff. So I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. They are miraculous women, and I'm so glad that they're my friends.